Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Today we gather not to talk about war, division, or destruction, but about a revolution. Not one fought with weapons, but with wisdom. Not one fueled by anger, but by understanding. Today we talk about the revolution of peace. For too long, humanity has associated revolutions with conflict. We think of upheavals, protests, and battles. But the most powerful revolution is one that begins in the heart, spreads through kindness, and transforms societies through unity. Peace is not just the absence of war, it is the presence of justice, equality, and harmony among people. Throughout history, the greatest leaders from Mahatma Gandhi to Martin Luther King Jr., from Nelson Mandela to Mother Teresa, have taught us that peace is the only true path to lasting change. But peace does not come automatically. It requires courage, commitment, and action. It is a revolution in how we think, how we treat one another, and how we build our communities. For centuries, the word revolution has been associated with bloodshed, conflict, and political upheaval. When people hear the word, they often think of wars for independence, revolts against oppressive regimes, or movements that shake the very foundations of societies. While these revolutions have, at times, brought necessary change, they have also left behind scars, both physical and emotional, that take generations to heal. But what if we changed our perspective? What if we redefined revolution, not as an act of destruction, but as an act of transformation? A revolution of peace is a call to action, not through violence or force, but through understanding and unity. It is about breaking the cycle of hatred and retaliation, replacing conflict with dialogue, and choosing cooperation over division. A revolution does not always need to be loud. Sometimes it is the quiet actions of individuals that create the biggest waves of change. Imagine a world where the most radical act of rebellion is kindness, where the most powerful weapon is empathy, and where the most significant victory is reconciliation. This kind of revolution requires a fundamental shift in our thinking. Many believe that peace is passive, that it is simply the absence of war. But true peace is active. It demands courage, persistence, and unwavering commitment. It is not about ignoring injustice but addressing it with wisdom. It is not about staying silent in the face of oppression, but speaking up with a voice that does not incite hatred. It is about standing firm in our principles while still extending a hand of friendship to those who oppose us. Every great change in history began with an idea, a vision that challenged the status quo. The revolution of peace is no different. It is a movement that dares to challenge the belief that violence is the only path to justice. It tells us that strength is not found in weapons, but in wisdom, that victory is not measured by the destruction of an enemy, but by the healing of a broken society. If we are to redefine revolution, we must start by redefining what it means to be strong. Is strength found in the ability to overpower others, or in the ability to forgive? Is a nation truly powerful if it dominates others, or if it nurtures its people and promotes harmony? These are the questions we must ask ourselves. Because a true revolution, one that lasts, one that transforms lives, begins not with the sword, but with the heart. For too long, people have misunderstood the true meaning of peace. Many believe that as long as there is no war, there is peace. But is that really the case? Can we truly call a world peaceful just because there are no battles being fought? The reality is that peace is far more than the absence of war. It is the presence of justice, equality, and harmony. It is a state of being where people feel safe, respected, and valued, not just on a political level, but in their everyday lives. Consider a society where there are no wars, but people live in constant fear of discrimination, of oppression, of inequality. Is that truly peace? Imagine a country where there is no armed conflict, but the voices of certain groups are silenced, where some people have access to education, healthcare, and opportunities, while others are denied these basic rights. Can we honestly call that peace? Real peace is not just about stopping wars between nations, it is about ensuring that within those nations, every person is treated with dignity and fairness. True peace is built on justice. Without justice, peace is fragile and temporary, like a house built on sand. When people are denied their rights, when corruption flourishes, when the rich grow richer at the expense of the poor, unrest will always follow. We see this throughout history. Whenever injustice prevails for too long, people rise up demanding change. And while their struggles may be labeled as acts of violence, in reality, they are often the result of a lack of true peace in their societies. Similarly, peace is about equality. It cannot exist in a world where one group dominates another, where opportunities are available to some but denied to others based on race, gender, religion, or economic background. A truly peaceful world is one where everyone has the chance to succeed, where no one is forced to fight for basic human rights. The presence of equality ensures stability because when people feel included and valued, they have no reason to turn to conflict. Beyond justice and equality, peace is also about harmony between individuals, communities, and even nations. It is about fostering relationships built on trust and respect. It is about teaching people to listen to one another, to understand different perspectives, and to work together for common goals. Harmony does not mean that we all have to think the same way or agree on everything, but it does mean that we learn to coexist without hatred or violence. If we truly want peace, we must do more than just prevent wars. We must build societies where people do not have to live in fear, where justice prevails, where equality is a reality, and where harmony is cultivated in every interaction. Peace is not a passive state, it is an active, ongoing process that requires effort, commitment, and a willingness to make the world better for everyone, not just a select few. Throughout history, the world has witnessed many revolutions, some led by military forces, others by political activists. But among them, there is a unique group of revolutionaries who did not pick up weapons, who did not shed blood, and yet they transformed societies in ways that war never could. These are the leaders of peace, visionaries who understood that true and lasting change does not come from violence but from perseverance, wisdom, and a deep commitment to justice. One of the most powerful examples is Mahatma Gandhi, who led India's struggle for independence from British rule through nonviolent resistance. At a time when the world believed that only war could free a nation, Gandhi chose a different path, one of peaceful protest, civil disobedience, and moral strength. He inspired millions to stand up for their rights, not with guns, but with unwavering determination and unity. His revolution was not just about freeing a country, but about proving that peace is stronger than violence. His legacy continues to inspire movements for justice and freedom across the world. Another great leader of peace was Martin Luther King Jr., who fought against racial segregation and injustice in the United States. Inspired by Gandhi's teachings, King believed in the power of nonviolence to bring about change. He led marches, gave speeches, and challenged an entire nation to reflect on its values. His famous I Have a Dream speech did not call for revenge but for unity, for a world where people would be judged by their character, not by the color of their skin. Even when faced with threats and violence, he refused to abandon his commitment to peace. And because of his courage, the civil rights movement achieved monumental victories, proving that peaceful resistance is not weakness, it is the ultimate strength. Nelson Mandela is another shining example of how peace can overcome even the deepest divisions. South Africa was once torn apart by apartheid, a system of racial discrimination that lasted for decades. Mandela, after spending 27 years in prison, emerged not with hatred but with forgiveness. He worked not to punish those who had oppressed him, but to unite a fractured nation. His leadership showed the world that reconciliation is more powerful than revenge, that healing is more important than winning. South Africa's transition from apartheid to democracy is one of history's greatest examples of what a revolution of peace can achieve. Then there is Mother Teresa, who may not have been a political leader, but was a leader of peace in the truest sense. She dedicated her life to serving the poor, the sick, and the abandoned, proving that peace is not just about avoiding conflict, but about showing love and kindness to those in need. She taught the world that even the smallest acts of compassion can change lives, that peace begins in how we treat one another, in how we care for the forgotten and the voiceless. These leaders and many more have left behind a powerful message. Peace is not passive. It is not about sitting back and hoping for change. It is about standing up, speaking out, and taking action, but doing so with love, with patience, and with an unshakable belief in the power of justice. They showed us that peace is not a sign of weakness, but of immense strength, and that real revolutions are not fought with weapons, but with ideas, courage, and an unyielding commitment to what is right. When we talk about peace, we often look to world leaders, governments, or international organizations to bring change. We expect politicians to negotiate treaties, global bodies to prevent wars, and activists to fight for justice. But in doing so, we sometimes forget the most important truth: peace begins with us. Each individual plays a role in shaping the world around them, and if we want a true revolution of peace, we must first take personal responsibility for our actions, our words, and even our thoughts. It is easy to blame others for the conflicts in the world. We point fingers at corrupt leaders, at unfair systems, at historical grievances. While these factors are real and cannot be ignored, the journey to peace starts at the personal level. We must ask ourselves, how do we treat the people around us? Do we promote peace in our daily lives, or do we contribute to division, even in small ways? The way we interact with our family, friends, colleagues, and strangers plays a crucial role in building a culture of peace. Peace is not just about the absence of war between nations. It is also about the absence of hostility in our communities and relationships. It begins in the way we resolve conflicts at home, in the way we handle disagreements at work, and in the way we respond to people who are different from us. If we cannot practice patience, kindness, and understanding in our own daily lives, how can we expect it to happen on a larger scale? Taking personal responsibility for peace means controlling our emotions and reactions. Anger and hatred are natural feelings, but how we choose to express them determines whether we contribute to peace or conflict. In moments of frustration, do we choose words that heal or words that hurt? Do we spread rumors, hold grudges, or escalate conflicts unnecessarily? A revolution of peace requires emotional intelligence, the ability to remain calm, to listen before reacting, and to choose dialogue over confrontation. It also means recognizing our biases and working to overcome them. Often conflicts arise from misunderstandings, stereotypes, and prejudices that have been passed down through generations. We must be willing to challenge our own beliefs, to educate ourselves about different cultures, religions, and perspectives. A peaceful world is one where people seek to understand each other rather than judge or fear one another. Beyond our personal relationships, taking responsibility for peace means taking action in our communities. We cannot remain silent in the face of injustice. If we see discrimination, we must speak up. If we see someone in need, we must offer help. Small acts of kindness, standing up for someone who is being treated unfairly, choosing not to spread negativity, promoting respect in our conversations can have a ripple effect. Social media has become a battleground for opinions, often turning into a space filled with anger and division. We must ask ourselves, are we using these platforms to promote unity or to spread hate? Are we engaging in meaningful discussions, or are we fueling arguments with no intention of understanding the other side? Every post, comment, and message we share has the power to build bridges or burn them. Education is another key aspect of personal responsibility in peace building. Parents must teach their children about respect, kindness, and empathy from an early age. Schools must promote dialogue, not division. Communities must create spaces where people of different backgrounds can come together, learn from one another, and collaborate. Taking responsibility for peace also means being aware of the impact of our choices on a global scale. The products we buy, the companies we support, the leaders we vote for, each decision contributes to the kind of world we are creating. Are we supporting systems that exploit others, or are we making ethical choices? Are we promoting fair treatment of workers, protecting the environment, and advocating for policies that uplift people instead of oppressing them? Ultimately, peace is not someone else's responsibility, it is ours. If we want to see a world without war, we must first build a world without hatred in our hearts. If we want to see justice, we must practice fairness in our own actions. If we want to see unity, we must be willing to listen, to compromise, and to respect one another. Peace is not just a global mission, it is a personal commitment, a daily practice, and a way of life taught. One of the greatest obstacles to peace is negativity in our thoughts, our words, and our actions. We live in a world where anger spreads faster than kindness, where fear is used to divide people, and where hatred is often louder than love. If we truly want a revolution of peace, we must make a conscious effort to replace negativity with positivity in every aspect of our lives. Negativity can take many forms. It can be hatred toward others, resentment toward those who have wronged us, or even self-doubt that prevents us from believing in a better world. We must understand that peace is not just about external conflicts between nations or groups, it is also about the inner peace we cultivate within ourselves. A mind filled with anger cannot contribute to peace. A heart filled with bitterness cannot promote unity. If we want a world that is free from violence and division, we must start by removing negativity from within ourselves. One of the first steps to replacing negativity with positivity is changing our mindset. Many people believe that the world is beyond saving, that conflict and suffering are inevitable. This kind of thinking only reinforces the cycle of hatred and violence. Instead of believing that change is impossible, we must have hope. Hope is not foolish optimism, it is the fuel that drives revolutions, the spark that ignites change. Every great leader who brought peace to the world, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, believed in the possibility of a better future even when everything seemed hopeless. If they had given in to negativity, the world would never have seen the progress they fought for. Replacing negativity with positivity also means choosing love over hate. Hatred is easy, it requires no effort to be angry, to hold grudges, to see others as enemies. But love takes strength. It takes courage to forgive, to show kindness to those who may not deserve it, and to believe in the goodness of others. Love is not just an emotion, it is a powerful force that can heal wounds, build bridges, and transform societies. If we want peace, we must actively choose love, even in difficult situations. Another way to bring more positivity into the world is through the power of words. Words can either build people up or tear them down. A single negative comment can ruin someone's confidence, while a kind word can uplift an entire community. Social media, in particular, has become a space filled with arguments, insults, and misinformation. Instead of using these platforms to spread hate, we should use them to spread hope, encouragement, and unity. Imagine how much the world would change if more people chose to use their voices for good instead of destruction. Positivity also means replacing selfishness with compassion. Many conflicts arise because people only think about themselves, their desires, their needs, their perspectives, without considering others. But peace requires empathy. It requires us to step into another person's shoes, to understand their struggles, and to recognize our shared humanity. When we treat others with kindness and compassion, we create an environment where peace can flourish. Additionally, negativity is often fueled by fear of the unknown, fear of people who are different, fear of change. Fear leads to division, prejudice, and hostility. The best way to combat fear is through education and understanding. When we take the time to learn about other cultures, religions, and perspectives, we realize that we have more in common than we thought. Education replaces ignorance with awareness, and awareness leads to acceptance. Choosing positivity does not mean ignoring the problems of the world. It does not mean pretending that injustice does not exist or that suffering is not real. Instead, it means facing these challenges with a belief that solutions are possible. It means taking action to make a difference, no matter how small. A smile, a kind gesture, an act of generosity, these things may seem insignificant, but they have the power to inspire change. If we truly want peace, we must train ourselves to see the good in the world, even in the midst of chaos. We must choose to believe in people, to give second chances, to spread kindness wherever we go. The revolution of peace is not about ignoring negativity, it is about transforming it, replacing it with something stronger, something that has the power to unite instead of divide, to heal instead of harm. It starts with each of us making a simple but powerful decision to bring more light into the world, one positive action at a time. A peaceful world cannot exist without unity. If we want a true revolution of peace, we must learn to see ourselves as one global family, bound together by our shared humanity. Yet, unity is often one of the hardest things to achieve because society has been divided for centuries by race, religion, class, nationality, and countless other barriers that separate people. But these divisions are not natural, they are created by human minds and reinforced by fear, ignorance, and a lack of understanding. To build a peaceful world, we must work actively to break these divisions and create a society where all people stand together as equals. The power of unity does not mean that everyone must think the same way or believe in the same things. A united society is not one where everyone agrees on every issue, but one where people respect each other despite their differences. Diversity is a strength, not a weakness. It allows different perspectives, ideas, and cultures to come together, making communities richer and stronger. The key to unity is learning how to coexist peacefully, how to embrace differences without allowing them to create conflict. When people are divided, they are easier to manipulate. History has shown that those in power often use division to control populations, turning groups against one another to maintain their own authority. But when people stand together, they become stronger. They can demand justice, protect human rights, and build societies based on fairness and cooperation. Unity empowers people to create positive change. Breaking barriers between people, one of the biggest challenges to unity is prejudice, preconceived opinions about others based on stereotypes rather than truth. Racism, religious intolerance, sexism, and class discrimination are all barriers to a united society. These divisions do not arise naturally, they are taught and reinforced through social conditioning. If we want to create a united society, we must actively work to unlearn these biases and replace them with understanding and acceptance. Education plays a crucial role in breaking down these barriers. Schools should not only teach academic subjects, but also promote values like tolerance, empathy, and respect. Children must be taught from an early age that all human beings are equal, regardless of their background. When young minds are nurtured with the idea of unity, they grow up to be individuals who promote peace rather than division. Another key to unity is communication. Many conflicts arise simply because people do not take the time to listen to one another. Misunderstandings, cultural differences, and personal biases often lead to unnecessary tensions. Open dialogue allows people to express their thoughts, clear misconceptions, and find common ground. Whether on a personal level or between nations, meaningful conversations can help build bridges where walls once stood. Community engagement and collective effort. A united society does not happen by itself. It requires effort from individuals, communities, and institutions. People must actively seek out opportunities to engage with those from different backgrounds. Communities should create spaces where diverse groups can come together, celebrate each other's traditions, and work on common goals. Festivals, cultural exchange programs, and joint community service projects can help people connect and understand one another better. Leadership also plays a significant role in unity. Leaders, whether in politics, business, or community organizations, must set an example by promoting inclusivity and rejecting divisive rhetoric. When leaders use their influence to bring people together rather than create division, societies become stronger and more resilient. Unity also requires economic and social justice. A society cannot be truly united when there is a vast gap between the rich and the poor, when some people have access to opportunities while others struggle to survive. Addressing issues like poverty, discrimination, and lack of access to education or healthcare is essential for creating an environment where everyone feels valued and included. Overcoming fear and mistrust. One of the biggest obstacles to unity is fear. People often fear what they do not understand. This fear leads to mistrust, and mistrust leads to division. But when people take the time to learn about one another, to see each other as fellow human beings rather than as enemies or outsiders, fear begins to fade. Media and technology play a huge role in either dividing or uniting people. Social media, for example, has the power to spread both hate and understanding. If used responsibly, it can be a tool for educating people about different cultures, highlighting stories of unity, and connecting individuals across borders. Instead of allowing technology to deepen divisions, we should use it as a means to bring people closer together. A call for action. Unity is not just an ideal, it is a necessity for peace. A divided society will always struggle with conflict, while a united society will thrive. The revolution of peace calls for each of us to take responsibility for fostering unity in our families, communities, and nations. This means choosing cooperation over competition, understanding over judgment, and love over hate. If we commit to this vision, we can build a world where no one is excluded, where no one is treated as less than another, and where peace is not just a dream, but a reality for all. Education is one of the most powerful tools for shaping the future. It has the ability to break cycles of violence, bridge cultural divides, and empower individuals to become active participants in peace building. A society that prioritizes education is a society that prioritizes peace. The revolution of peace cannot succeed without a strong foundation of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. True education does not just teach people how to read and write, it teaches them how to think critically, how to empathize with others, and how to solve problems without resorting to conflict. Education as a weapon against ignorance and prejudice. One of the root causes of conflict is ignorance. Ignorance about other cultures, ignorance about history, and ignorance about the perspectives of others. When people do not understand one another, fear and mistrust grow. stereotypes, and prejudices flourish in the absence of knowledge. Education is the key to breaking down these barriers. It opens minds, encourages dialogue, and helps people see the humanity in others. A well educated society is less likely to be manipulated by hateful ideologies. History has shown that misinformation and propaganda can be used to turn people against each other. But when individuals are taught to think critically, to question what they hear, and to seek truth for themselves, they become less susceptible to the forces of division. They become advocates for peace rather than pawns of conflict. Teaching conflict resolution and emotional intelligence. Another important role of education in peace building is teaching people how to manage conflicts in a peaceful way. Disagreements are a natural part of life, but how we handle them determines whether they lead to violence or understanding. Schools should not only focus on academic subjects, but also on emotional intelligence, helping students learn how to express their feelings, listen to others, and resolve disagreements without aggression. Many conflicts, whether personal or political, arise from a lack of communication and misunderstanding. Teaching young people skills like mediation, active listening, and problem solving can equip them with the tools to prevent small disputes from escalating into larger conflicts. If children grow up learning that problems can be solved through discussion and cooperation, rather than anger and violence, they will carry those lessons into adulthood. The role of schools in promoting tolerance and inclusion education should also focus on creating inclusive environments where students from different backgrounds learn to respect and appreciate one another. Schools should not only celebrate diversity but also actively teach about different cultures, religions, and histories. When children are exposed to different perspectives from a young age, they grow up with an open mind and a broader understanding of the world. In many places, history is taught from a one-sided perspective, often glorifying certain nations or groups while overlooking the struggles of others. A true education for peace requires a balanced approach, one that acknowledges past injustices and teaches students the importance of reconciliation and coexistence. When people understand history in its full complexity, they are less likely to repeat the mistakes of the past. Education as a tool for empowerment. Beyond fostering understanding and tolerance, education empowers individuals to improve their own lives and the lives of those around them. Many conflicts are fueled by economic struggles, inequality, and lack of opportunity. When people have access to education, they gain the skills needed to build better futures for themselves and their communities. A society where everyone has access to education is a society that is less prone to violence because people are given the tools to rise above poverty and despair. Particularly in conflict-affected regions, education can serve as a lifeline. Schools can become safe havens where children find stability and hope even in the midst of war. Education provides young people with an alternative to joining violent movements, offering them a path toward constructive change instead of destruction. Investing in schools, teachers, and educational resources is one of the most effective ways to prevent future conflicts and ensure long-term peace. The responsibility of governments and global organizations for education to truly be a force for peace. Governments and global organizations must take responsibility for ensuring that every child, regardless of background, has access to quality schooling. Unfortunately, in many parts of the world, education remains a privilege rather than a right. Wars, economic instability, and systemic inequality prevent millions of children from attending school. When governments prioritize military spending over education, they are investing in conflict rather than in peace. A true commitment to peace requires a shift in priorities, placing education at the center of national and international policies. Scholarships, literacy programs, and digital learning initiatives can help bring education to underserved communities, ensuring that no child is left behind. The role of families and communities. While schools play a major role in education, the responsibility does not fall on teachers alone. Families and communities must also contribute to raising generations that value peace. Parents should teach their children about kindness, fairness, and respect at home. Communities should provide opportunities for mentorship, cultural exchange, and lifelong learning. When education is seen as a collective effort, one that involves families, schools, governments, and global institutions, it becomes a powerful tool for lasting peace. The revolution of peace depends not just on political agreements or economic policies, but on the hearts and minds of people. And those hearts and minds must be shaped by an education that values truth, empathy, and justice. The revolution of peace is not just a dream, it is a choice that each of us must make every single day. Peace is not something that is given to us by governments or treaties. It is something we must actively build through our actions, our words, and our attitudes. It begins with personal responsibility, with choosing love over hatred, unity over division, and understanding over ignorance. It requires replacing negativity with positivity, educating ourselves and others, and standing up against injustice wherever we see it. This revolution does not require weapons or violence. It requires courage, compassion, and an unshakable belief in the goodness of humanity. It calls on us to rise above our differences and recognize that we are all part of one global family. It demands that we listen to each other, learn from each other, and work together to create a world where peace is not just the absence of war, but the presence of justice, equality, and harmony. The question is not whether peace is possible, the question is whether we are willing to fight for it in the right way. Will we choose to be silent in the face of division, or will we be voices for unity? Will we allow history to repeat itself, or will we write a new chapter, one where peace is not just an ideal but a reality? The power to create a better world is in our hands. Let us not wait for others to lead the way. Let us be the revolution. Let us be the change. Let us be the peace.